They spun their web with precision, didn't they? Each thread a secret, each lie another layer of silk designed to hide their fragile little truths. They believed in the illusion of safety, that the darkness would shield their deeds from the light. It's almost poetic, the lengths they go to bury what they fear most, as if the weight of their hidden truths won't eventually crush them. But secrets are like whispers in the wind. No matter how tightly you clutch them, they always find a way to escape. There's a funny thing about secrets. They demand loyalty, yet betray the one who keeps them. The act of hiding isn't strength, it's fear. Fear that someone will see past the mask, past the carefully curated facade, and into the chaos they've so desperately tried to conceal. But here's the kicker. Secrets have a way of rotting from the inside. They don't need anyone to uncover them, because eventually, they'll consume the one who carries them whole. People think secrets are power, but they're really prisons. Each one adds another chain, another shackle, until movement itself becomes impossible. They become so focused on keeping the doors locked that they forget the cracks in the walls, the whispers seeping through the silence. They assume the world will never notice. But the thing about darkness, it never stays dark forever. Light has a way of creeping in, even when you least expect it. You've seen it, haven't you? The way they act, the way they talk, so smug in their little fortress of deceit. They've convinced themselves that as long as no one knows, they're untouchable. But secrets make people predictable. They're not free. They're slaves to their own fear of exposure. Every decision, every interaction is tainted by the shadow of what they're hiding. They think they're in control, but the reality is, their secrets are the ones pulling the strings. The weight of a secret isn't measured in what it hides, but in what it costs. It's the paranoia, the sleepless nights, the constant second-guessing. They become their own jailers, locking themselves in a cage of their own making. And the irony? The longer they hide, the more obvious they become. Their efforts to bury the past become the breadcrumbs that lead straight to it. The louder the silence, the more it reveals. Here's the punchline. No one escapes the truth forever. Secrets have a shelf life, and the longer they sit in the dark, the more they rot, the more they stink. And when they finally surface, and they always do, it's not just the secret that's exposed. It's the person who kept it. Their lies, their manipulations, their schemes, they unravel all at once, leaving nothing but the raw, unfiltered reality they fought so hard to suppress. But here's where it gets interesting. When secrets come to light, they don't just destroy, they transform. The exposure is brutal, yes, but it's also liberating. For them, maybe, or maybe not. But for you, it's freedom. Freedom from the lies, from the illusions, from the games they played to keep you in the dark. And in that clarity, you find your power. Because while they crumble under the weight of their own deceit, you rise above it, untethered and unstoppable. Don't pity them when their secrets unravel. Don't rush to save them from the chaos they created. They wanted the power, the control, the illusion of invincibility. Let them face the consequences of their choices. Let them taste the bitter fruit of their own deceit. It's not your job to carry the burden of their secrets, nor to clean up the mess they've made. Your silence in their unraveling is not cruelty. It's justice. You see, the beauty of secrets is that they can't thrive in the light. And you? You are the light. Your clarity, your truth, your refusal to play their game. That's what exposes them for what they are. It's not about vengeance or retribution. It's about standing firm in your own power, knowing that their secrets don't define you, don't control you, don't touch you. The only thing they ever hid was their own weakness. Words are easy to manipulate. They're crafted, curated, and chosen with care, a veneer designed to mask deeper truths. But behavior? That's a language they can't control. It's raw, instinctual, and far less malleable than the lies they tell themselves. Human behavior reveals everything words try to conceal. It betrays hesitation, exposes hidden motives, and speaks louder than the most convincing alibis. They thought their secrets would stay buried because they mastered the art of deception. But in their movements, their choices, their subtle pauses, they leave a trail they can't erase. Secrets live in the details. Averted eyes, nervous hands, the slight crack in their voice, each one a breadcrumb leading to the truth. While they think they've locked their secrets away, their body becomes a billboard advertising what they're trying to hide. They may not realize it, but the truth leaks out in the way they hold their breath when certain topics arise, in the way they avoid eye contact, in the unnatural stiffness of their smiles. These are the cracks in their armor, the silent confessions that words could never capture. The beauty of human behavior is that it doesn't lie. While words are deliberate, behavior is spontaneous. It doesn't wait for permission. It simply happens. The more they try to control it, the more it slips through their fingers, revealing the very truths they're desperate to hide. They believe they can cover their tracks with convincing stories, but their actions tell a different tale. And for those who pay attention, the contradictions are impossible to miss. Observation is a weapon they underestimate. They assume that if they speak convincingly enough, their secrets will remain hidden. But those who truly watch, who notice the patterns and the shifts, can see right through them. Secrets are not just what people say, it's what they don't say. The moments they falter, the ways their actions betray their words. The more they try to hide, the more visible they become to the keen observer. They thought their secrets were safe because no one questioned their words. But behavior is a language far harder to silence. It whispers in the gaps between sentences, shouts in the smallest gestures, and exposes what lies beneath the surface. Every nervous glance, every fidget, every unguarded moment becomes a piece of the puzzle, painting a picture far clearer than any confession could. Secrets make people predictable. Their efforts to conceal force them into patterns, routines designed to protect their lies. But those patterns are their undoing. They create a rhythm, a cadence that reveals their intentions far more clearly than they realize. And once you learn to see it, their secrets lose their power. You don't need their words, you just need to watch. Behavior doesn't just expose secrets, it amplifies them. It turns a hidden truth into a glaring contradiction, a silent scream that demands to be heard. They can't help it. It's human nature. The very act of hiding creates tension, and that tension manifests in ways they can't control. The harder they try to bury the truth, the more visible it becomes. Their secrets were never hidden. They were just unspoken. But behavior has a way of filling the silence, of speaking the words they refuse to say. It doesn't need permission, doesn't wait for the right moment. It reveals itself in the most mundane actions, in the cracks between their composure. And once you learn to see it, their illusions crumble. The human mind is a master detective, always seeking order, always searching for patterns. We're wired to notice rhythms, the predictable beats in the symphony of behavior. And when something doesn't fit, when an inconsistency disrupts the flow, it draws attention like a crack in a flawless mirror. Secrets may be whispered or hidden behind smiles, but inconsistencies in behavior expose what words cannot. They thought their secrets would stay hidden because they controlled their narrative. But patterns, or the lack thereof, reveal everything they wish to keep buried. People build habits, routines, and rhythms without even realizing it. These patterns are the background music of their lives. When secrets creep in, they disrupt that harmony. The overcompensated laugh, the suddenly evasive gaze, the hesitation where confidence once stood. These are the moments that betray the story they're trying to tell. They can control their words, but they can't control the dissonance their secrets create. Inconsistencies are red flags, waving boldly against the backdrop of predictability. They thought no one would notice the shifts in tone, the abrupt changes in mood, the subtle pauses before answering a question. But the mind, ever observant, picks up on these details. It senses something off, even if it can't immediately name it. And once suspicion is sparked, the search for the truth becomes relentless. Patterns aren't just habits, they're safeguards. They protect the facade, maintain the illusion, and give secrets a place to hide. But the moment those patterns falter, the illusion shatters. The cracks grow wider with every inconsistency, revealing glimpses of the truth behind the mask. They believed their control over the narrative was absolute, but their own behavior proves otherwise. Inconsistencies don't just draw attention, they amplify the secrecy. They make the hidden truth more obvious because they disrupt the flow of normalcy. They force questions, prompt curiosity, and invite scrutiny. And once people start looking, the cracks in the armor become impossible to ignore. Their secrets, once so carefully guarded, become glaring under the spotlight of observation. The irony of hiding is that it often makes the hidden more visible. The effort to maintain the illusion becomes its own tell. They speak too quickly or too slowly. They smile too much or not at all. The balance is gone, replaced by a performance that fails to convince. And in those inconsistencies, the truth finds its voice. Secrets are never as hidden as they think. The human mind is too attuned to the natural order, too sensitive to the disruptions that secrets create. The very act of keeping a secret changes the way they move, speak, and react. They may think their words are enough to keep the truth buried, but their inconsistencies betray them at every turn. Every pattern, once broken, leaves a trail. The more they try to cover it up, the more obvious the break becomes. They thought they could manipulate the rhythm, rewrite the melody, but their inconsistencies stand out like sour notes in a song. And for those who listen closely, those notes are all they need to hear. Fear is a cruel master. It whispers that exposure is imminent, that the secret won't stay buried, that every word, every action could betray what's hidden. And in their desperate attempt to avoid detection, they overcompensate. The louder they laugh, the more rigidly they stick to their alibi. The more elaborate their lies, the clearer it becomes. They're hiding something. They thought their secrets would stay hidden, but fear made them louder than silence ever could. Overcompensation is an act of self-sabotage, masquerading as self-defense. They believe that by trying harder, smiling more, explaining excessively, over-justifying, they can steer attention away from the truth. But the harder they try, the more obvious it becomes. Their exaggerated gestures and excessive reassurances don't mask the truth. They amplify it, drawing attention to what they hoped would go unnoticed. Secrets thrive in subtlety, but fear makes people abandon subtlety entirely. They'll repeat themselves unnecessarily, add details no one asked for, and react disproportionately to the smallest comments. Their fear of exposure creates inconsistencies, contradictions, and gaps in their stories. And those gaps are all it takes to pull the thread that unravels everything. Overcompensation doesn't just expose their secrets, it highlights their guilt. The very effort they put into hiding becomes its own confession. A smile that lingers too long, a voice that trembles despite the words, a sudden need to control the narrative. All of it points to one undeniable fact. They're hiding something. Fear becomes the spotlight they thought they could avoid, illuminating the very truths they wanted to keep in the dark. The irony is almost poetic. In trying to avoid exposure, they reveal themselves. The fear that drives them to overcompensate also drives them to make mistakes, to give away more than they intended. It's a vicious cycle, one they can't escape. Every action meant to protect the secret only makes it more vulnerable, more visible, more fragile. People often believe that being louder, bolder, more confident will protect their secrets. But confidence born of fear isn't confidence at all. It's a performance. And performances, no matter how well rehearsed, always have tells. The forced laugh, the overemphasis, the unnecessary explanations, each one a crack in the mask they've worked so hard to maintain. Fear doesn't just expose secrets, it erodes the person keeping them. It consumes them, making them hyper-aware, hyper-defensive, hypersensitive. Their overcompensation becomes a prison, chaining them to the very thing they're trying to escape. And the more they struggle, the more the chains tighten, the more visible their struggle becomes to those paying attention. Overcompensation is the ultimate betrayal of secrecy. It screams what they refuse to say aloud, that there's something worth hiding. It's not the quiet, reserved individuals who draw suspicion. It's the ones who go out of their way to prove their innocence, their normalcy, their lack of guilt. And in that overextension, they reveal more than they ever intended. The fear of exposure is more damaging than the exposure itself. It drives people to act irrationally, to make choices that betray their intentions, to highlight the very truths they hope to bury. They thought their secrets were safe behind their overcompensation, but fear is a cruel betrayer, and its whispers echo louder than any scream. Secrets are weighty things, and the longer they're carried, the heavier they become. They start as whispers in the mind, small, insignificant even. But over time, they grow, feeding on silence and fear, transforming into burdens that are impossible to ignore. The longer they keep the secret, the more it seeps into their behavior, their words, their thoughts, until it leaves cracks in the very facade they worked so hard to construct. Carrying a secret demands constant vigilance. They have to watch every word, control every action, calculate every move to ensure the truth doesn't slip through. But no one can maintain that level of control indefinitely. The emotional toll of keeping a secret manifests in ways they can't predict. Nervous tics, sudden irritability, lapses in judgment. These small cracks, though seemingly insignificant, are enough to let the truth seep through. Time is the great betrayer of secrets. It doesn't just reveal them, it amplifies their weight. What once seemed manageable becomes suffocating. The effort required to maintain the illusion grows, and with it, the likelihood of error. They may convince themselves they can carry the secret indefinitely, but the strain will always find a way to surface. Their own exhaustion becomes their undoing. The cracks in the facade aren't always obvious. Sometimes they're subtle. An inconsistency in a story, a hesitation when answering a question, a moment of unguarded vulnerability. But for those who pay attention, these cracks are all the evidence needed. Each one is a glimpse into the truth they've been trying so desperately to conceal. Secrets don't just weigh on the mind, they weigh on the heart. The guilt, the shame, the fear of exposure, all of it takes a toll. It changes the way they see the world, the way they interact with others, the way they see themselves. That internal conflict can't be hidden forever. It seeps into their words, their actions, their very presence, making the truth impossible to hide. The longer a secret is kept, the more power it gains. It becomes a living thing, feeding on their fear and growing stronger with each passing day. But that power is a double-edged sword. The more they fear exposure, the more their actions betray them. Their efforts to maintain control only highlight the very thing they're trying to hide. The facade cracks, the illusion shatters, and the truth emerges, unstoppable and undeniable. They thought time would protect their secret, but time is a cruel master. It doesn't hide the truth, it amplifies it. The longer they carry the burden, the more visible it becomes. Their facade may hold for a while, but eventually, the cracks will spread, and the entire structure will come tumbling down. And when it does, it won't be subtle. It will be a reckoning. The emotional toll of keeping a secret isn't just their burden, it's their punishment. It forces them to live in constant fear, to question every interaction, to second-guess their every move. That fear becomes their jailer, and their silence becomes the bars of their prison. They may think they're protecting themselves, but in reality, they're only prolonging the inevitable. The truth always finds a way to escape. The cracks in their facade may start small, but they grow with time, spreading like fractures in glass. They can patch them up, try to cover them, but the damage is already done. And once the truth starts to emerge, there's no stopping it. The secret they thought they could keep forever becomes the very thing that undoes them. Silence is the oxygen secrets need to survive. As long as no one speaks, as long as the words remain unspoken, the illusion of control persists. They believed their secrets would stay hidden forever because they relied on that silence, that carefully maintained stillness. But silence isn't empty. It's full of echoes. In the quiet moments, when the noise of the world fades, the truth begins to stir. It whispers. It lingers. It demands to be acknowledged. And no matter how tightly they try to hold on, silence always betrays them. Reflection is a dangerous thing for someone harboring secrets. The mind turns inward, revisiting moments, analyzing choices, replaying the lies told to protect the truth. In those quiet moments, the weight of their secrecy becomes unbearable. It's not the fear of exposure that eats away at them. It's the realization that the secret owns them. They thought the silence was their ally. But it's in the silence that the truth grows loudest. Secrets aren't just hidden from the world. They're hidden from the self. The effort to bury them requires constant distraction, constant noise, constant movement. But when everything grows quiet, when the distractions fall away, the truth emerges. It's in those unguarded moments, in the stillness of reflection, that their secrets become impossible to ignore. They can lie to others, but they can't lie to themselves forever. The irony of relying on silence is that it amplifies what they're trying to suppress. The longer the secret sits in the dark, the more it festers. It seeps into their thoughts, colors their emotions, shapes their actions. They believed the silence was protection, but it's a double-edged sword. The quiet gives the secret room to grow, and with growth comes visibility. Eventually, the truth pushes through, demanding to be seen. Quiet moments of reflection force them to confront the gap between who they are and who they've pretended to be. The secret becomes a mirror, reflecting everything they've tried to avoid. It's not just the guilt or the fear. It's the realization that they've been living a lie. And that realization doesn't just haunt them, it begins to change them. Their actions become inconsistent. Their words ring hollow. Their confidence falters. The truth leaks out, one crack at a time. Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the presence of opportunity. Opportunity for truth to find its voice, for guilt to take root, for the cracks in their facade to widen. They can't escape the quiet forever, no matter how much they try. And when they're forced to sit in it, the secret they thought they controlled becomes the one thing they can't ignore. It consumes them, eroding their peace, unraveling their composure. The longer they hold on to the secret, the louder the silence becomes. It drowns out their excuses, their justifications, their carefully crafted lies. In the end, it's not the exposure they fear. It's the stillness, the moments when the world stops, and they're left alone with their thoughts. Those moments are where the truth reveals itself, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet unraveling of their own mind. Secrets aren't undone by confrontation. They're undone by introspection. The more they reflect, the more the weight of their actions presses down. They'll try to distract themselves, to avoid the quiet, but the truth waits patiently. It doesn't rush, doesn't force its way out. It simply lingers, growing louder with every passing moment until it can no longer be ignored. Words are slippery things. They're crafted to conceal, designed to misdirect, and polished to perfection to shield what lies beneath. But behavior, that's an entirely different story. Human behavior doesn't ask for permission to speak. It reveals, it betrays, it tells the truths people work so hard to hide. They thought their secrets were safe behind a veil of well-chosen words, but they underestimated the power of observation. Every movement, every pause, every subtle shift in demeanor whispers louder than any sentence ever could. Behavior is the language of the subconscious. While words come from the conscious mind, carefully curated and deliberate, actions slip through the cracks of control. The way their eyes dart away, the tension in their shoulders, the hesitation in their laughter, each tells a story they'd rather keep hidden. Secrets aren't buried in what people say. They're etched into what people do. And for those who know how to watch, the narrative is clear. They may think their secrets are safe, because the Facade rehearsed their lines, perfected their alibis. But behavior doesn't lie. It's raw, instinctual, and far harder to manipulate. The slight crack in their voice, the unnecessary justification, the unintentional fidget, these aren't just quirks. They're confessions. Every action, no matter how small, carries the weight of the truth they're trying to suppress. The beauty of observation is in its patience. While they focus on controlling their words, they overlook the cues their behavior gives away. They think they're fooling everyone, but their body speaks a language that can't be silenced. A glance held too long, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes, attention that never quite dissipates. Each is a thread in the tapestry of their deception, and with enough attention, the pattern becomes impossible to miss. Secrets are fragile things, and behavior is the hammer that breaks them. Every moment of control they lose. Every unguarded reaction, every instinctual response chips away at the illusion they've built. They believe their words are enough to maintain the facade, but their actions reveal the cracks. And once those cracks appear, the secret begins to unravel, piece by piece. They thought they could hide behind silence, behind carefully chosen statements and calculated omissions. But behavior fills the gaps. Words leave behind. It's in the way they hesitate before answering, the way their hands tremble when the topic comes too close, the way their demeanor shifts when they think no one is watching. Behavior doesn't just hint at the truth, it shouts it, for those willing to listen. The act of hiding creates tension, and tension reveals itself in 1,000 small ways. The more they try to control it, the more obvious it becomes. They smile too much, or not enough. They overcompensate with explanations, or they say too little. Their actions are no longer natural, but forced, deliberate, and strained. And that strain is their undoing. It makes their secrets more visible than they could ever imagine. Human behavior is relentless. It doesn't wait for them to catch their breath, doesn't allow them to regroup. It's constant, unfiltered, and brutally honest. No matter how much they try to control it, it always finds a way to betray them. And while they're busy perfecting their words, their actions are laying bare the truth for all to see. Observation is their greatest threat, because it requires nothing but attention. It's not confrontational, not aggressive, not something they can fight against. It's silent, unyielding, and devastatingly effective. Their behavior, their movements, their choices, all of it becomes evidence, proof of the secrets they tried so hard to keep hidden. And once the pattern is clear, there's no going back. Patterns are the language of behavior. The way you speak, act, and respond isn't random. It's a collection of habits, instincts, and subconscious decisions woven into a predictable rhythm. The key to recognizing deception in others starts with understanding the patterns in yourself. Once you recognize your own tells, the nervous tics, the avoidance strategies, the subtle shifts that arise when you're uncomfortable, you can begin to identify these same behaviors in others. Emotional intelligence isn't just about empathy, it's about observation. And those who master it become adept at spotting the truths people try to bury. When you observe yourself, you start to notice the ways tension manifests. Maybe it's the way your voice tightens when you lie, or how your eyes dart when you avoid a question. These aren't flaws, they're signals. And the more you become aware of them, the sharper your perception becomes. You start to see those same patterns in others. The way they fidget when the conversation veers too close to their secrets. The way their tone shifts when they try to sound too convincing. Recognizing your own vulnerabilities opens the door to understanding theirs. Secrets are revealed in subtle ways, through inconsistencies in behavior that are easy to miss unless you're paying attention. Understanding your own behavioral patterns helps you tune into these inconsistencies in others. You notice the slight pauses before they answer, the way they deflect certain topics, the overcompensation when they try too hard to sound genuine. These moments aren't just slips. They're windows into their hidden truths. And the more you hone your self-awareness, the better you become at reading those windows. Emotional intelligence is a skill forged through introspection. It's not just about how you interact with others, but how you interact with yourself. By understanding your triggers, your fears, and your tendencies, you develop a roadmap for identifying deception in others. People are more alike than they'd like to admit, and the behaviors you recognize in yourself often mirror those you'll find in others. This awareness becomes your greatest tool for discerning what lies beneath their words. Self-awareness sharpens observation because it teaches you to see beyond the surface. You learn to separate the noise from the signal, the distractions from the truth. When someone's behavior deviates from their usual pattern, it stands out to you because you've trained yourself to notice the same deviations in your own life. Secrets don't scream, they whisper. And emotional intelligence is what allows you to hear them. The beauty of understanding your own behavior is that it makes you more compassionate. When you recognize your own struggles with honesty, you're less likely to judge others harshly for theirs. But compassion doesn't mean naivety. It means seeing their secrets for what they are, without letting them manipulate or control you. Your awareness becomes a shield, protecting you from their deception while allowing you to respond with grace. Secrets are often carried with a weight that alters a person's behavior. They may become more defensive, more evasive, or more anxious. These changes are subtle, but unmistakable to someone who's trained themselves to notice patterns. Your self-awareness gives you a framework for understanding what those changes mean, for discerning when someone is acting out of fear, guilt, or shame. It's not about calling them out. It's about knowing where you stand. When you understand your own patterns, you also learn to trust your instincts. Your gut reactions to someone's behavior often come from subconscious observations you haven't fully processed yet. Self-awareness helps you connect those dots to identify the cues your instincts are picking up on. It's not magic. It's pattern recognition honed through practice and introspection. Secrets rely on your inability to see through the mask. But when you understand your own masks, you become adept at seeing through others. Emotional intelligence isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. It allows you to navigate relationships with clarity, to understand motivations with precision, and to protect yourself from the chaos others try to drag you into. Secrets thrive in the shadows of self-doubt. They're born from a disconnect between who you are and who you pretend to be, a gap where insecurity, fear, and shame reside. When you lack self-awareness, it's easy to accumulate these shadows, piling one hidden truth upon another until the weight becomes unbearable. But self-awareness changes everything. It shines a light on those dark corners, encouraging you to confront your flaws, accept your humanity, and live in alignment with your values. And when you live authentically, the need to keep secrets fades away. To be self-aware is to understand your motivations, your fears, and your desires. It's recognizing when you're acting out of alignment with your true self and correcting the course. Secrets are often the byproduct of actions you regret or parts of yourself you wish to hide. But when you develop self-awareness, you start to see those moments not as failures, but as lessons. You stop running from your imperfections and start owning them, reducing the power they have over you. Living in alignment with your values means making choices that don't require concealment. When you act with integrity, there's no need for cover-ups or justifications. Self-awareness helps you identify the values that matter most to you and guides your actions accordingly. The more aligned your actions are with your values, the less likely you are to create situations that demand secrecy. Transparency becomes a natural state, not a forced one. Secrets are rooted in fear of judgment, rejection, or failure. But self-awareness dismantles those fears by fostering self-acceptance. When you understand and accept yourself, the opinions of others hold less weight. You stop hiding parts of yourself to fit someone else's narrative and start living in a way that feels true to you. This authenticity creates a life with fewer secrets, fewer lies, and fewer regrets. Self-awareness doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. It means you'll confront them with honesty. It gives you the courage to admit when you're wrong, to apologize when needed, and to learn from your missteps. Secrets thrive on denial, but self-awareness thrives on acknowledgement. By facing your mistakes head-on, you prevent them from becoming burdens you have to hide. When you embrace self-awareness, you stop fearing exposure, because there's nothing left to expose. You've already done the work of confronting your own truths, which makes the judgments of others irrelevant. This doesn't mean you'll share every detail of your life. It means you'll no longer feel the need to create illusions to protect yourself. Your confidence in your authenticity becomes your shield. Living without secrets isn't about perfection. It's about peace. Self-awareness allows you to let go of the mental gymnastics required to maintain a facade. It frees up your energy for meaningful pursuits, deeper relationships, and personal growth. The absence of secrets creates space for clarity, for connection, for a life that feels expansive instead of constricted. The beauty of self-awareness is that it's a cycle. The more honest you are with yourself, the more authentic your actions become. And the more authentic your actions, the less you need to hide. This positive feedback loop reinforces itself, creating a life that feels lighter, freer, and more fulfilling. It's not about avoiding judgment. It's about building a foundation so strong that judgment doesn't shake you. Secrets rely on silence and shame to survive, but self-awareness dismantles both. It replaces shame with acceptance, silence with honesty, and fear with courage. By aligning your actions with your values, you create a life that doesn't require hiding. And in that openness, you find freedom, not just from secrets, but from the weight of living a double life. Our reactions are not just fleeting moments of emotion. They're windows into our inner world. When someone's behavior provokes you, be it anger, suspicion, or even admiration, it says as much about you as it does about them. Reflecting on these reactions can uncover hidden dynamics in your relationships, revealing truths you may have overlooked. Secrets don't just hide in words or actions. They hide in the spaces between, in the unspoken, in the emotional ripples left behind. When you take the time to reflect, you begin to uncover these layers. Think about a time when someone's words or actions felt off, but you couldn't immediately identify why. That instinctual discomfort isn't random. It's your subconscious picking up on inconsistencies, subtle clues that something is amiss. Instead of brushing those feelings aside, reflection allows you to dig deeper. Why did their tone shift when the conversation changed? Why did their smile falter for just a second? By examining your reactions, you start to piece together the puzzle of their behavior. Reflection isn't just about analyzing others. It's about understanding yourself. Why did their comment bother you so much? Was it because it struck a nerve, exposed an insecurity, or reminded you of something unresolved? Secrets in relationships often thrive because we're too focused on surface-level interactions to notice the deeper currents. Your reactions are a map, guiding you to the truths that lie beneath. Every relationship carries unspoken agreements, hidden expectations, and unresolved tensions. Reflecting on your interactions with others helps you identify these dynamics. Are you the one always giving while they take? Do they deflect accountability with charm or excuses? Your reactions to their behavior aren't just emotional, they're informational. They highlight patterns that, once recognized, become impossible to ignore. Secrets are often kept not just by individuals, but within relationships. Reflecting on your reactions can reveal when someone is withholding, when they're not being entirely truthful, or when they're manipulating the dynamic to their advantage. That moment of tension you feel when they dodge a question or deflect blame isn't accidental. It's a signal. Reflection turns that signal into clarity, showing you what's really happening beneath the surface. Personal growth is intertwined with relational awareness. When you reflect on your reactions, you gain insight into your own boundaries, values, and triggers. You start to recognize when someone's behavior aligns with who you want to be, and when it doesn't. This awareness empowers you to make choices that support your growth, rather than enabling toxic dynamics or secrets to persist. Reflecting on your reactions also strengthens your intuition. Each time you analyze why you felt a certain way, you sharpen your ability to read people. You start noticing patterns faster, spotting inconsistencies before they have a chance to grow into something larger. Secrets, by their nature, rely on your inability to see the full picture. Reflection makes that picture clearer, filling in the gaps with understanding and awareness. Relationships built on transparency thrive, while those riddled with secrets falter. Reflecting on your reactions helps you determine which category your relationships fall into. Are there hidden power struggles? Do you feel seen and understood? Or do you feel manipulated and used? These are the questions reflection can answer, providing you with the clarity to make healthier decisions. Your reactions aren't weaknesses, they're insights. Each one holds a piece of the puzzle, a clue to the hidden dynamics at play. By reflecting on them, you not only uncover the secrets others are keeping, but also strengthen your own emotional resilience. The process isn't always comfortable, but it's always illuminating. Manipulative people craft their secrets like webs, intricate traps designed to ensnare and control. They rely on others to play along, to overlook inconsistencies, to be complicit in their deceptions, whether knowingly or not. But boundaries are the scissors that cut through their web. When you establish firm, unapologetic limits, you dismantle their ability to drag you into their hidden agendas. They thought their secrets would stay safe because they assumed you'd play their game. But boundaries change the rules entirely. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They don't shut people out completely, but they regulate access to your time, energy, and emotions. Manipulators thrive on blurring lines, on convincing you that their problems are yours to solve and their chaos is yours to endure. By setting boundaries, you clarify where you stand, making it impossible for their secrets to entangle you in their schemes. You're not rejecting them, you're protecting yourself. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing when someone is trying to manipulate you. Pay attention to patterns. Do they dodge accountability, deflect blame, or use guilt as a weapon? These behaviors are red flags, indicators of deeper, hidden motives. Boundaries force them to confront their tactics, to face a version of you that they can't control. They'll resist, push back, test your limits. But every time you hold firm, their power over you diminishes. Manipulative people rely on your empathy, your desire to help, your willingness to overlook the cracks in their stories. They exploit these qualities to keep their secrets intact. But boundaries shift the dynamic. They turn the focus inward, forcing them to deal with their issues rather than offloading them onto you. When you refuse to carry the weight of their lies, you leave them with no choice but to face the truth they've been avoiding. Boundaries aren't just about keeping manipulators at bay. They're about creating space for your own clarity. When you're not consumed by someone else's drama, you can see their behavior for what it truly is. Their secrets become more obvious, their tactics more transparent. The emotional distance boundaries provide allows you to observe without being pulled into the chaos. And in that space, you find the freedom to make choices that serve you. Manipulators thrive on access. They need your reactions, your involvement, your engagement to maintain their hold. Boundaries deny them that access. They force them to operate without the tools they've grown so accustomed to using. And as their usual tactics fail, their secrets begin to unravel. They can't manipulate someone who refuses to play along. Setting boundaries isn't easy, especially with those who resist them. Manipulative people often react with anger, guilt-tripping, or even doubling down on their efforts to control you. But their resistance is proof of the boundary's power. It's a sign that you're disrupting their agenda, that you're reclaiming your space in a way they can't counter. The more consistent you are, the more their power diminishes. Boundaries aren't just defensive, they're transformative. They don't just protect you from manipulation, they redefine the relationship entirely. When you refuse to be drawn into someone's hidden agenda, you force them to confront their own behavior. Whether they choose to change or not is up to them. But your boundaries ensure that their choices no longer impact you.